The Sud de France is an organization that promotes the wine, the food, and the culture of southern France, specifically the Languedoc-Roussillon. I am in love with the wines from Languedoc-Roussillon, so they sent me out there for 5 days with a video camera. I visited 10 winemakers and got to see just how magical this place is. The following videos are my experience of the wines that we should be seeing more and more on the American market. Please enjoy. This is the last stop of the first day. We're in a place that has actually got its own appellation very recently.
So I am Philippe Dallène, and I am in charge of the domain of the Abbaye De Valmagne, and being property of my family for now since 1838, so it's a few years. So we try to keep it for the next generation coming now. And we have 65 hectares of vineyards. All these vineyards are now organic. They will be certified, all certified next year. And we are in Languedoc, which was previously Coteaux Du Languedoc, and the appellation now is Languedoc. And we are in the part which is the Gres De Montpellier, which is a upper level of Coteaux Du Languedoc.
This is very exciting because we have Philippe's wine in our wine shop. So our third stop on the first day was the Abbaye De Valmagne. Founded in the 1100s, this was one of the richest abbeys in South France. But the 100 Years' War and the following religious wars brought this amazing place into almost complete ruin. It became national property in the 1700s, and in 1838, the Count du Turenne bought it, and Philippe is a descendant of that family. And the camera really can't capture the immensity of this place. It's huge. We're about to take a little tour and see how big this is. Wait till you see the wine barrels.
You have here was the refectory. So where the monks have lunch, and they always had a place where they could wash hands before going for lunch.
Oh, okay. The monks that lived here would use this fountain to wash their hands before they went to lunch right across the hall. So I thought I would chase this water to see exactly how clean it was, and all I gotta say is, this sure ain't no New York City water. This is clean and minerally, and I understand completely why no one would need any soap. Was soap even invented back then? Has it always had vineyards?
Yes.
Always. This is just great. He's saying to me that the people that first settled onto this part of the land, they looked for two things: water and a place to plant vines. That's really all you need. Well, maybe some bread. The vineyards that we have here, that you have here, yes, that have been in the same spot.
Exactly.
So even if when it wasn't occupied, the vineyards stayed here.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
The vineyard that we have today is exactly in the same place than the monks.
That's wonderful.
Started the vineyard.
Wow. And how old are your oldest vines?
Oh, the eldest one I have at the moment is 1936.
Wow. While that's a pretty old vine, look at this. This is a grapevine that has worked its way up and around the structure of the fountain's roof. It's amazing how they've trellised it around in a nice little design. You see, vines are woodland climbers. If you don't trellis them, they will just grab onto anything. Then it was time to take a tour of this immense, beautiful ancient facility.
So here you had the parloir. See, this is the place where they were able to speak. They couldn't speak at all during the day, but the only place where they could speak was here.
So you knew when you could come and talk. You couldn't just say...
No,
it was scheduled. So you basically, there was... Okay, so there was a time during the day, 1 hour during the day that everybody knew they could come here.
Not every day, just celebration day, like Christmas or...
Oh my goodness. So no wonder they made a lot of wine.
It would have been tough for you, huh?
I would have been thrown out.
Get used to it. So no problem.
I guess you get used to it. I'd be like counting down the days for Christmas. I'm like... I had to make sure I got that right. So they could not speak all year except for on celebration days, Easter, Christmas, and such. Sometimes I sleep, but the majority of my life is made up of talking, so I don't know if I could actually do this, but it was a beautiful space nonetheless, and wait till you see what's coming next. Philippe then took us into the Grand Hall, and when I say Grand Hall, I mean Grand Hall. I don't even know if the word grand can actually encompass this entire space. This is where they used to have mass, and nowadays they have events, charity events, fundraising events, seasonal events. But what really got me was the size of these wine barrels that were here. It is absolutely incredible. You'll see me standing next to one soon, and I can't believe how much wine was fit into these things. Seeing wine barrels this big, my first question was, are they still in use? And sure enough, Philippe was telling me he was using them 15 years ago, but because they're so old and were in such disrepair, they're now used as decoration pieces. And I mean, those are some serious decorations. I'm a little over 6 feet tall, and look at that. I can't even come close to blocking out even the lower half of the barrel. This is amazing. I felt very small and was ready to taste some wine. The scale of this place was very intense, and one last thing they told me before we left was people used to go inside those wine barrels and actually clean them out so humans can fit inside there. Now, the hole to get inside is kind of small, so I guess we've gotten kind of big as human beings.
No,
I've been.
Me too. Me, I can.
Wait.
I don't know. One last stroll around the property to see the pond with the black ducks. I've never seen a black duck before. And it was off inside with a nice warm fire to taste some amazing wines. Cats, a warm fire burning old vines. Philippe took us into his tasting room. We had a chance to taste his entire line. We have one of his wines here in our shop in New York City, and we're honored to have it, but it was nice to taste all the wines that he makes from the surrounding area. This idea of terroir, the French don't really talk about wine and how much of a percentage of this grape and how much of a percentage of that grape is in the wine. Their wine is a reflection of their terroir, that word they come up with, terroir, a sense of place. And I have to say, as we tasted through all these wines, terroir was absolutely present in every single wine. Soon he brought me over to show me the map of his area and all the vineyards, and we'd talk about the soil.
Here, you have the domain. So the first one comes from here.
Here he's showing me all of his vineyard spots. Interestingly enough, what he's showing me is we had just tried 2 wines. Each wine had the same exact blend, but they were coming from different areas. And that is how we talk about terroir. Same blend, 2 different wines, 2 different structures, 2 different complexities. Red clay, okay.
Red clay.
Okay.
Red clay.
What about the other vineyard here? Here he's talking about red clay. That red, the word red, is all over the Languedoc, and that's iron. Iron is good for us, it's good for our blood, it's good for the vines, keeps them healthy. Really nice barnyard, it's really funky, dark currant fruit. Beautiful acidity, but the acidity is not intense. It's enough to bring a little heaviness to the wine. It has a nice integration of tannin. It's wonderful. He said it's the wine of kings, and it makes complete sense. And as we tasted through his line, he spoke about aging. You know, in the world of wine, it's kind of a myth that all wines can age. There's a small amount of wines in the world that are actually completely age-worthy. These are some age-worthy wines that nobody talks enough about. And as we tasted through the different vintages, we got a real sense of how these wines in the Mediterranean age. They soften a little bit, they keep their acidity, but they have this beautiful earthiness that never goes away. Darker color. We tasted the 2006, and now we're on to the 2000. The last one was a little, you can tell it's an aged wine. It has kind of a brickish color around the edges here. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but the first wine, the 06 that we tried, was like really funky, had some nice barnyard to it, good spiciness. This, more of a leathery, musky, softer, like earthy, not barnyard, like straight up like forest floor. That's a geeky wine term, forest floor. You can use that if you want. The acidity is held beautifully. Tannin structure is a little softer. This is why we should all be drinking wines from this area. I don't know why we're not drinking more of it. This is phenomenal. Just come on over to Alphabet City Wine Company. We got them. This is amazing wine. Among the list of red wine grapes that are used in Languedoc-Roussillon, Philippe uses mostly Syrah and Mourvedre for his red wines. What you look for in an old wine, first of all, look at the color, see if it has a nice brickish color to it. Aside from the tour of this beautiful abbey and tasting through all of Philippe's wonderful wines, one of the things that excited me the most about this whole experience and this visit was that this area where he makes his wine has finally received its appellation status. It is no longer just part of the Languedoc. It now is an appellation in itself, Gres De Montpellier. This is where Languedoc is going right now. Large appellation filled with amazing places for wine that are just now being recognized by the government. The future of this area is what we're seeing now. We're going to be seeing more and more of these little appellations coming out because there's a concentration in small areas of amazing wine, and there's a difference between them, and we have to understand that. And on the American market, it's going to be easier for us to get into it. But we couldn't leave just yet, according to Philippe. So we were just told by Philippe that there's a tradition after wine tasting that we have beer, and just so happens that the Abbaye De Valmagne makes beer, so we are celebrating the end of a wine tasting with brew.
I want one.
You could have one. That is delicious. Oh my gosh. Now, even though I'm a wine guy, I do love beer, and I'm not really sure about tasting notes with beer, but I fell in love with it nonetheless. This is called Delicious. That's the name of the wine taste. It's the tasting note.
Santé.
Santé. I tend to, it's beer. I shouldn't I don't need to swirl. As we drank our brew, we went ahead and let Philippe go off and get back to work, making the amazing wines and beer that he makes. And we started off onto our journey towards the Pyrenees. This was an amazing experience. Thank you, Philippe and family, for letting us come to your amazing facility and taste your amazing wines. We look forward to seeing you and having more of your wines in New York City.